Welcome to the Realm Wars Network. Today we bring you our very first tournament report, playing with the latest battle scroll in a grand tournament format of 5 games. And no additional house rules apply. And the prize for winning? 1 golden ticket to the World Championship 2024. This is the Shanghai Bloody Christmas Tournament. We are covering the games of the network's own Blades of Khorne army. As the list does not change throughout the tournament, we will cover the army list in more detail than in the single game reports that we usually do. The general is a staple in any Khorne army. The bloodthirster of unfettered fury is truly a Swiss army knife. It hits reasonably well, is a priest, cancels ward saves, provides a -1 to hit aura around him, and crucially can make another unit's charge roll a 3d6. This combines with the Skullfiend tribe ability to strike first on a charge roll of 8+. Skarbrand is one of the 2 centerpieces of the army. He is the unit that the Khorne player really wants to go where it hurts, and Khorne has many ways to manipulate movement with prayers and blood tithe bonuses. The Bloodsecrator and 2 Slaughter Priests are responsible to hand out different buffs across the army. Especially dangerous are the Bloodbind and Killer Instinct prayers that make an enemy unit move towards the priest or allow a hero phase move of a friendly unit. The Secrator is especially important for the Skull Reapers, as it can ensure that this hammer unit will stay at full strength with an improved rally ability. The Skull Reapers are the main reason to take the Skullfiend tribe, which makes the unit battle line, and they benefit the most from the sub-faction's trait. It is a hammer unit, 40+ high-quality attacks with mortal wound output and 30 wounds on a 4+ save are very respectable numbers. Blood Warriors are often underestimated as their damage output does not look that great on paper, but the combination of resilience, utility and damage that these bring to the field makes them valuable every time. The Claws of Karanak are a utility unit. They bring a pre-game move that helps to score a first-turn battle tactic, surround and destroy, and otherwise act as a screen. Khorne has access to pretty good invocations. 2 of those are the Hexgorger Skulls that provide valuable defense against enemy spellcasting, and the Wrathaxe that provides a way to apply chip damage. Untamed beasts have been allied in from the Slaves to Darkness army, which are essentially a cheaper version of the Claws of Karanak. The Unmade are the second ally choice here, which, as well as being the 3rd screening unit in the army, also deny redeploy and rally commands by the enemy, which can be very impactful. The first opponent of the day is James, with his Daughters of Khaine. The battle plan is every step is forward, where charging gives benefits on objective control. James' army is a classic setup, based around Morathi and a whole lot of Blood Sisters that will fight on death, which is a big challenge for any close combat-focused army. With so many games, we will not be doing a play-by-play of every action, but rather summarize each turn and highlight deciding moments. Deployment sees the Daughters very aggressive, standing on the line, knowing that their army has a big threat range with run and charge on the Sisters, and they get to choose the first turn. Khorne deploys with screens in front to not fall victim to a potential alpha strike, as the armies are not far apart in this battle plan. James gives the turn away, and Khorne begins with surround and destroy as the battle tactic. The invocations are summoned to get them on the field early, and the army spreads out to secure the battle tactic and 2 objectives, while keeping the screens up to deny Morathi space to strike. The battle tactic is Cruel Delight, which can be easily completed by the two Heartrender units by using their shoot and move ability. Morathi refrains from any spell casting with the Hexgorger skulls, so close, and she makes sure to stay outside the range of the Rathax to ensure she doesn't get wounded by it in the next turn. The Witch Elves screen to make sure that the big Blood Sister unit can threaten a big part of the board. The untamed beasts are taken out by the smaller sisters unit, which takes them far away from the action in the center. The daughters control 3 objectives and score 5 points. Khorne wins the initiative roll, and after a full round of careful positioning from both sides, the demons see an opening in their enemies' lines and take the turn. In the hero phase, Skarbrand moves forward. The Unmade run towards the Witch Elves to make sure no one nearby can use Redeploy to stand in Skarbrand's way. Shooting sees the Heartrenders reduced by the greater demons. Skarbrand rolls a big charge, which takes him to the edge of the Witch Elf unit, from where he can pile into the Blood Sisters and takes out most of the unit. As there are not many sisters in range, he takes only moderate damage back. The Bloodthirster finishes off the Heartrender. Khorne completes their battle tactic and scores 4 points. The battle tactic is surround and destroy. The Blood Sisters are not allowed to rally due to the nearby Unmade. The Blood Secretor uses the Null Dust pouch to increase the chances for miscasts, which causes Morathi to do so right away, and she takes 3 wounds, shutting down her spellcasting for the turn. Skarbrand is out of combat, so he can't use Blood Tithe to fight right away, but he does use Murderlust to move into the surviving Blood Sisters. The Iron Scale and Sisters retreat away from him in their movement phase, though. Morathi charges the Greater Demon and takes him out. The Daughters complete their battle tactic and score 4 points. Winning the roll-off again, the demons select to start off turn 3, and the battle tactic is led into the Maelstrom. The sisters are now able to rally back 5 models. The Wrath Axe does its duty and deals 3 more damage to Morathi. The Skull Reapers charge into the Witch Elves, the Warriors into the Sisters, and the Bloodthirster into the Iron Scale. The Skull Reapers charge into the Witch Elves, the Warriors into the Sisters, and the Bloodthirster into the Iron Scale. The Warriors take down the Sisters. The fight between Witch Elves and Skull Reapers ends in favour of the Khorne mortals, with the elves being wiped out. Small Morathi gets to fight the warriors as well, but deals little damage. The Bloodthirster dispatches the Iron Scale to diminish the Daughters' forces further. The Blades of Khorne complete their battle tactic and score 5 points. The battle tactic is to intimidate the invaders. Small Morathi uses her command to fight in the hero phase and takes down more warriors. The Hexgorger skulls suppress spellcasting again, with Mind Razor failing to be cast, and she miscasts her War Scroll spell, causing the skulls to explode and deal the crucial 3 damage per turn to her. The last Sisters unit rushes over to claim the Khorne home objective. The Shadow Queen sets her eyes on the second big demon and takes him down in combat without breaking much of a sweat. The daughters complete their battle tactic and score 4 points. The battle tactic is to intimidate the invaders. Getting the turn again, Khorne hopes to capitalize on this and summons the Hexgorger skulls, while the axe puts more wounds on Morathi, bringing her down to 3. An important factor in tournament play is time. In this case, Khorne almost ran out of playtime and had to rush, causing a costly error in mixing up deployment zones and territory for the sake of the battle tactic, causing Khorne to fail the tactic as the infantry units ran too far back and into their own territory. Khorne scores 3 victory points. Turn 4 for the daughters, and only a few units are left on the field to make an impact. Their battle tactic is the Tide of Blades, where 2 units need to be in the opposing deployment zone, which is easily achievable here. At the end of the hero phase, Khorne drops a brass skull meteor with Blood Tithe on Morathi, which deals the last remaining 3 wounds to her, leaving the daughters with a unit of Sisters and a unit of Heartrenders. In shooting the Heartrenders dispatch, the Unmade, and with 2 controlled objectives and their battle tactic, the daughters score 4 victory points. Winning the double into turn 5, and having run out of achievable battle tactics, they pick magical dominance, just to annoy Khorne and his hatred of magic. The Heartrenders are the main protagonists this turn, surging towards the Skull Reapers, shooting them and moving again before they finally charge in, but they are quickly dispatched by the Khorne mortals. Controlling 2 objectives earns the daughters 2 victory points. Khorne is trailing in the score and needs to score 4 victory points to come out ahead. which means they need to complete a battle tactic, and the only potentially achievable one is the battlefield runs red, where 4 units have to die this turn. It is a long shot, but they have to try, as 3 units could potentially die to the sisters if done right. The Skull Reapers rally 3 models back. Khorne moves the Skull Reapers in the hero phase, and also makes the sisters move closer with the Bloodbind prayer and uses Murderlust to move the priests in charge range. Khorne summons 5 Flesh Hounds to get enough units for the battle tactic, but the hounds fail their charge, and therefore the battle tactic. Khorne controls 3 objectives and scores 3 points. With both players on 22 victory points, a tiebreaker is needed, which is the amount of completed battle tactics. Here the daughters failed 1, while the demons failed 2, which results in a minor victory to Khaine. A very intense and close game, which shows that even small mistakes can cost in the end. It felt like a game that should have been a win, but it got away from Khorne in the last 2 turns, mostly due to self-inflicted mistakes, as the trades went in Khorne's favour. Morathi was on the field, a turn longer than she should have been, which is the old wisdom to start putting wounds on her from turn 1 right away. James was a delight to play against, making the loss a bit easier to swallow for Khorne. Game 2 against Kharadron Overlords, which features all the usual dwarven suspects, an ironclad, lots of thunderers, and the always useful admiral. There is one twist though, as the inclusion of a unit of Stormcast, Saul's Worn Questers, gives them a good melee punch that can also keep up with the airships using their teleport ability. This battle plan, the Frigid Zephyr, where a storm limit's view ranges to 12 inches. This is a severe disadvantage for the dwarves, as it limits the range of their shooting significantly. The dwarves finish to deploy first and give the first turn to Khorne, knowing how devastating a dwarven double turn of shooting can be. Khorne's turn 1 battle tactic is to intimidate the invaders. In the hero phase, the axe is summoned and some buffs are handed out, while movement makes sure to screen out any potential landing spots in the backfield. If the Overlords come close, they have to do so from the front. Khorne scores 5 victory points. The dwarven battle tactic is the opening salvo to kill a unit in the shooting phase. The ironclad flies high to occupy the northern table edge, while the rest of the castled-up units move towards the middle of the board. The ironclad with the thunderers on board take out the untamed beasts and claim their battle tactic. The Overlords score 3 points. The Overlords win the initiative and take the double turn. The storm keeps on going, so the dwarves are still limited in their shooting range. The battle tactic is blast them to smithereen, where they need to take out the Blood Warriors, who are within 12 inch of the northern objective. The dwarves unleash their guns on the Blood Warriors, and they surprisingly need all of them to reduce the unit to a single warrior, who then gets charged by the questers and taken down. The dwarves need to use all their firepower to get the battle tactic, which earns them 5 points this turn. The battle tactic is led into the Maelstrom. The axe comes out again, as the dwarven units are nicely bunched up to deal chip damage to several, and Skarbrand receives buffs to armor and Ren. In the movement phase, the Khorne units try to find a way to get charges on the boats, while also not exposing the valuable units, meaning Skarbrand to a devastating unleash hell. Not finding that opening the dwarven front line is charged instead by everyone worshipping the blood god. Both the questers and the company are taken out, which leaves the Khornate heroes out of combat, and therefore they gain only 1 victory point. The initiative stays with the dwarves, who decide that their battle tactic shall be to get boots on the ground in the enemy territory. The Navigator's Storm deals assorted mortal wounds to the Bloodthirsters. Khorne grants Murderlust to the Bloodthirster who gets into the Arcanaut company. The Thunderers and Heroes disembark behind the safety of the Ironclad. The dwarves open up with their next barrage and take down the Bloodthirster. Needing all their guns to take down only a single target again is costing the dwarves, and they score only 1 point. A very low scoring game, so far with points dropped on both sides. Khorne aims to change this now by calling for the Trial of Skulls, where Skarbrand has to take out 8 models. The Claws of Karanak use Murderlust to ensure the Ironclad is in combat. The Skull Reapers charge the Gunhauler and Skarbrand the Thunderers behind the Ironclad. The gun hauler and most of the Thunderers are taken out. Khorne takes all objectives and scores 5 points. Double turn for Khorne, aiming to deliver the killing blow to the caught-out Skyfleet. The battle tactic is to show that there are no cowards among us, where every unit must be within 8 inches of an enemy. While some Thunderers manage to rally back, Skarbrand spends Blood Tithe to fight in the hero phase, to take out the Ironclad in one massive strike. In the combat phase, the Skull Reapers and Skarbrand clean out the heroes and the last of the Arcanaut company. With only a few dwarves left on the field, the Kharadron Overlords concede. The guns let down the dwarves. 2 rounds of underwhelming shooting was not enough to stem the demonic tide. Especially the double turn in round 4 sealed the deal where it all crumbled to dust. Game 3 features Nicola, who is a very dedicated and experienced Sylvaneth player. With the current upswing in the Wood Elves' fortunes since the introduction of Belthanos, this will surely prove to be a tough map. This Sylvaneth list is very focused on combat, accounting for 4 main hammers with Durtha, Belthanos, Dryka, and a block of hunters, all of which are very tough to take down, as well as highly mobile due to various available teleports. Khorne lets the elves take the first turn, who pick magical dominance as their battle tactic, which is easy to achieve as Dryka is outside of unbinding range. While the forest spirits stay mostly defensive, Belthanos rushes forward and Dryka teleports across the field. Dryka takes out the claws of Karanak in the shooting phase with ease. Belthanos charges the Blood Warriors, takes out half the unit, and then uses Strike and Fade to teleport back to the safety of his own kin. The Forest Spirits score 4 points this turn. The first Khorne battle tactic is to intimidate the invaders to bring the fight to the elves. The Blood Warriors rally and get almost back to full strength. The Bloodthirster moves up with Killer Instinct and then tries to pull in Dryka with Bloodbind, but fails the prayer roll. With this gambit having failed, the rest of the army moves forward while trying to screen out potential teleports as best as possible. claiming 2 objectives, and the battle tactic scores 4 points for Khorne. Double turn for Khorne. This will be a big chance to get to these teleporting spirits. The battle tactic will be led into the Maelstrom. Attempting the Bloodbind prayer gambit again, the Bloodthirster moves forward with killer instinct, who then successfully forces Belthanos to move towards the demon. The Khorne army moves up to exploit the exposed position of Belthanos and charges right in. The big beetle is taken down by the Skull Reapers, while the Revenants dispose of the untamed beasts, and the Dryads in the centre hold up Skarbrand. Khorne scores 5 victory points. The battle tactic is led into the Maelstrom as well. The Skull Reapers use Blood Tithe in the hero phase to take out the Dryads and tag Durtha. While the shooting phase doesn't deal much damage, the hunters, Striker and Durtha are charging in confidently. The Skull Reapers are taken out while the Blood Warriors and Striker fight to a standstill. The Forest Spirits score 5 points. The battle tactic is to slay the sorcerer, targeting Striker. The Bloodthirster pulls the Arch-Revenant forward with Bloodbind. The Blood Warriors fight with Blood Tithe and take out Striker. In movement, the demons line up their charges on the Kurnoth hunters. In combat, Durtha succeeds in his monstrous action to make Skarbrand fight last. The Blood Warriors take out the Arch Revenant. The Bloodthirster deals only negligible damage to the hunters. In retaliation, Durthu takes out Skarbrand with ease. This allows the hunters to pile into the Bloodthirster to bring their full power to bear, which almost takes down the second greater demon. In an obvious blunder, Khorne hands the game to the tree spirits. Skarbrand should never take the risk to engage Durthu here, who can make him fight last. The Blades of Khorne still manage to score 4 points this turn. The battle tactic is to intimidate the invaders. The Sylvaneth plan here is pretty straightforward. The smaller spirits teleport across the field to score objectives, while the bigger ones are in a prime position to take out the last demons. The Bloodthirster fights in the hero phase and takes down 2 hunters. In combat, the demons are surrounded and get decimated with Durthu, teleporting back into his own forest. Sylvaneth score 5 points this turn and are in full control of the field. The story of the last turn is quickly told, while Khorne tries to get a few more points on the scoreboard with a last-minute summon of Skullcrushers. There is no hope of catching up to the Sylvaneth, who can still score full in their turn. After the third game, we got the obligatory armies on parade to determine the best painted army. Game 4 on the following day sees the god of death himself take to the field, which seems fitting for early Sunday mornings. Jifan brings an off-meta army to the table that relies on the heavy casting power of Nagash, as well as the punch that the Graveguard can deliver. The battle plan for this round is Power Flux, where either the horizontal or vertical 2 objectives are active each round, beginning with the vertical objectives. The Gravelords give the first turn to Khorne, who chose to aim to surround and destroy as their only viable battle tactic. The Hexgorger skulls are summoned to be a pain in Nagash's side, with their increased risk of miscasting. The rest is a very fast turn, with the Khornate units moving a bit forward to secure the tactic and to score 3 points. The battle tactic is magical dominance, where only the vampire lord that hides behind his god casts Mystic Shield. The Gravelords set up their screens and score 4 points, with the extra point coming for a locus that is contesting their home objective. The battle tactic this turn is to intimidate the invaders. The Bloodthirster uses Killer Instinct and pulls Nagash forward against his own screen of direwolves with Bloodbind. With Nagash in weapon range, the Khorne army surges forward for charges all across the board. The Bloodsecrator gives the whole army an extra attack this turn, and the slaughter begins with the Skull Reapers taking out the direwolves, opening the way for the greater demons. Nagash manages to pile around the Bloodthirster, and more importantly, out of range of Scarbrand. The zombies succumb to the Blood Warriors and untamed beasts, who manage to tag the Grave Guard to prevent them from charging in their next turn. The cultists fall to the attacks of the few Grave Guards in range, spoiling their plan. Khorne scores 4 victory points. Turn 2 for Nagash, who has to contend with not only the Hexgorger skulls, but also the Nuldust pouch this turn, to make casting as difficult as possible. Nagash manages to cast a Mystic Shield on himself, but miscasts his attempt at the Hand of Dust, which could take out Scarbrand in one go. On top of that, he takes the full 6 mortal wounds from the miscast against Khorne. Having taken wounds from the Bloodthirster last turn, and the big wounds taken from the miscast, gives the Bloodthirster the opportunity to activate in the hero phase and take Nagash out of the game. The last hope of the Gravelords are the Grave Guard to turn the game around with their charge on Scarbrand, But with an astonishing amount of failed hits, the demon survives the onslaught, and the vampires concede the game. In this game, the dice went all against the vampires. The potential was there for Nagash and his guard to take very large chunks out of the enemy army, but it was not meant to be. The last game of the tournament brings us the latest chapter in the great game of the Chaos Gods. Khorne versus Khorne, but here the god of change has added a twist. Matt brings a Bloodlords list with the usual assortment of greater demons and bloodletters as a hammer. The main difference, though, is the Regiment of Renown, to capitalize on all the additional blood tithe that the Magister can bring when casting his endless spells. The battle plan is the Geomantic Pulse. The Bloodlords open up the game with magical dominance from the Magister hiding in the very far corner. Considering if they should play it safe and not use the endless spells against another Khorne army, the Magister throws the idea out of the window and brings out the Burning Sigil endless spell to deal damage to all of his own screens to generate chaos spawns. The demonic simulacrum from arcane legions successfully deals damage to the untamed beasts. With their endless spells in play, the Bloodlords position carefully and score the maximum of 3 points this turn. The Skullfiend tribe's first tactic is surround and destroy. The opposing Kuranak's Claw are being bloodbound to come out of hiding in the forest. The Wrathaxe tries to snipe the ritualist beside the bloodletters, but fails to kill him. Kuranak's claws die to a charge by the unmade cultists, and the Skullfiend tribe scores 3 points. The Bloodlords win priority into turn 2 and choose to go second. The pulse starts on the left side. The battle tactic is Trial of Skulls for the Skull Reapers to take out 8 models. The Killer Instinct and Bloodbind combo is being utilised again, which pulls the Bloodletters out of their formation and within charge range. The Wrathaxe is not banished, but rolls so high on damage that it banishes itself and takes out the ritualist, deals damage to the Bloodsecrator in the Skull Altar as well as the Bloodthirster. The Skull Reapers dispatch the bloodletters to the wound exactly. The claws of Karanak fail to deal the last wound to the Bloodsecrator. The Skull Fiends score 6 points this turn. The battle tactic for the Bloodlords is led into the Maelstrom. The demonic simulacrum is dispelled. Skarbrand moves in the hero phase. The burning sigil is summoned and creates another chaos spawn. The Skull Reapers are using Murderlust to not let Skarbrand move anywhere else. In movement, the Bloodlords try to bog up the right flank with their heroes, and the left with cheap bodies. The Skull Reapers are charged from all sides and are taken out. The Bloodlords score 5 points this turn. The Bloodlords win the double turn and will attempt to intimidate the Skull Fiends. The Bloodthirster fails to prey for killer instinct. Exploiting the open space in the center of the Skull Fiends formation, the greater demons surge forward. The Bloodlords' infantry clogs up the objective, which is the pulse this turn as well. Skarbrand goes for the Blood Warriors, and the Bloodthirster for the Bloodsecrator and the Priests. In the anticipated Skarbrand on Skarbrand face-off, the charging Bloodlord has the upper hand and takes his doppelganger out. The Secretor gets taken out as well, while the last two Blood Warriors hang on for dear life, completely surrounded, and the Bloodlords score the maximum 7 points this turn. For their battle tactic, the Skull Fiends have to have every unit within 8 inches of an enemy. The Wrath Axe is summoned to put additional wounds on Skarbrand and the Thirster, bringing both down to half wounds. A brass skull meteor is dropped on Skarbrand that takes out his last remaining 6 wounds. The Bloodlords do the same and drop another meteor on the Bloodthirster for 6 wounds as well. "20 Bloodletters are being summoned to support the fight in the center. With the charge buff from the Thirster, the Bloodletters make their charge as well and take out the Thirster to the womb. The Blood Warriors in the middle hold on and the Skull Fiends score 4 points. The initiative returns to the Bloodlords, who choose bait and trap as their tactic. The Bloodletters are using Murderlust to close the distance to bail out the last Blood Warriors. The Blood Reavers retreat for their battle tactic. Now it is the Bloodlord's turn to summon 20 Bloodletters. The Horrors take down the last Blood Warriors with their shooting. These new letters fail their long-range charge. Scar Bloodwrath takes out 5 Bloodletters, but dies to the retaliation together with most of the Pink Horrors and one of the 3 spawns. The Bloodlords score 5 victory points by holding on to the pulse. The battle tactic is to leave non-enemy standing near the Bloodletters. The Slaughter Priest attempts to kill the Secretor with Blood Boil, but fails to pray with a double one. The Bloodthirster wants to move with Killer Instinct, but also rolls a double one and fails the prayer. The Bloodlords drop a brass meteor on the Thirster for 6 mortal wounds. The Secretor redeploys away from the Bloodthirster that tries to hunt him. Five Flesh Hounds are summoned. The bloodletters clean out the last horrors and spawns. The Skullfiend tribe scores 6 victory points. At this point, time was called, and the Bloodlords took away the win with having a narrow lead of 1 point after the 4th round. It was a very close game that could have gone both ways, just as it would have been expected in such a mirror match. The big factor in the mirror was the question who could trade better, and this depends a lot on the initiative, as both sides could keep summoning bloodletters, so whoever could trade by 1 unit more would have the edge. In summary, this was an amazing tournament, even though the expectation for this Khorne army, which is very strong in the meta, was to have an even more positive result, but with 3 wins and 2 losses overall in 5 very enjoyable games, the Skullfiend tribe could return home satisfied. The Blades of Khorne army has many tools and options which bring a very strong learning curve with many mechanics that are a lot of fun to play, but that you need a good amount of experience with to apply correctly and not make easy positioning mistakes that can cost them the game. We hope you enjoyed this report and see you soon on the Realm Wars Network.